The snow fell on East LA like God's way of proving he still remembered we existed. December 20th. The basketball courts looked like a graveyard covered in white sheets, waiting for fresh bodies. I'm telling you this story because you need to understand how power really works, not the fantasy version they sell you in movies. The real thing. The kind that breaks bones and ends friendships and turns 12-year-old kids into soldiers. Los stood in the center of that court, snow collecting on his yellow camo hoodie, LA Dodgers hat pulled low. 13 years old, and already moving like a man who'd buried his fear in a shallow grave years ago. The gold chain around his neck caught what little light broke through the gray sky. He didn't shiver, didn't shift his weight. Just stood there like the cold was something that happened to other people. Across from him, Miguel Reyes, 17, Mangananzo enforcer, flanked by two other scrubs, both built like they'd been held back since third grade. Miguel had a scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek, courtesy of a broken bottle during a territory dispute last summer. He wore it like a resume. "You know why I'm here," Miguel said. His breath came out in clouds. "You've been operating on our territory for 3 weeks, selling candy, taking bets on dice games, running your little enterprise like you own the place." Los didn't blink. Didn't know the courts belonged to anybody. Everything belongs to somebody, little man. And this? Miguel gestured at the snow-covered concrete, the chain-link fence, the empty basketball hoops standing like gallows. "This is Mangananzo property. Has been since before you were born." Jay stood 10 feet back, orange-hooded jacket bright against the white landscape. His hand kept drifting to his pocket. I knew what was in there. A roll of quarters wrapped in electrical tape. Not a weapon by law, but Jay could turn anything into a weapon. The kid had violence in his DNA the way other people had brown eyes or attached earlobes. He watched Miguel the way a dog watches someone standing too close to its owner, waiting for the signal, praying for the signal. "So what's the ask?" Los's voice stayed flat. No fear, no challenge, just business. $300 by tomorrow, 4 p.m. Consider it back rent. One of the scrubs laughed. "Or we beat it out of you right here. Your choice." I watched Jay's hand close around the roll of quarters. His jaw tightened. But Los, he just nodded slowly, like Miguel had asked him about homework. 24 hours, Los said. Not a question, a statement. Miguel stepped closer. Snow crunched under his boots. "You think this is a negotiation?" "I think you came here to collect money, not excuses," Los said. "You beat me down right now, you get satisfaction. You give me until tomorrow, you get $300. Up to you which one feeds your family." The silence stretched. Miguel studied Los like he was reading a book in a language he didn't quite trust. Behind him, his scrubs waited for the order to put hands on this 13-year-old who talked like he'd been negotiating with demons since birth. Then Miguel smiled. Not friendly. The way a shark smiles at a seal. 4 p.m. tomorrow, right here. You come up short even $1. We're taking it out of your brother's face. He looked at Jay. Pretty boy's gonna look like abstract art when we're done. Jay took a step forward. Los raised one hand, didn't even turn around, just raised it, palm out. Stop. Jay froze. That's when I knew these brothers had something most crews spend years trying to build. Los had the kind of command that doesn't require volume, and Jay had the discipline to override his own nature when it mattered. 4 p.m., Los repeated. We'll be here. Miguel and his scrubs left, their footprints cutting dark trails through the fresh snow. The moment they were out of sight, Jay exploded. "We should have rushed them! 3 on 2! Yeah, they're bigger. But I've got the quarters, and you've got—" "We've got 24 hours to get $300. Los cut him off. His voice stayed ice cold. "Fighting them gets us nothing but a trip to the nurse and suspension. Then what? They catch us outside school grounds, No teachers, no witnesses. Use your head. Jay kicked at the snow. So where we getting 300 by tomorrow? Loss pulled out his phone. The screen illuminated his face, made him look older, made him look tired. The Kobayashi locker. I should explain something about the school's economy. East LA Middle School had two things going for it: terrible oversight and, even worse, security. The Kobayashi family, 3 brothers in 7th and 8th grade, ran the black market for electronics. Stolen phones, tablets, earbuds, gaming systems. They kept their inventory in a maintenance locker they jimmied 6 months ago, down in the basement near the boiler room. Loss had been watching them, because that's what Loss did. He watched everyone, learned their patterns, their routines, their weaknesses. They moved product Thursdays, Loss said, walking toward the school building. Jay followed, snow melting in their footprints. Keep the locker locked with a combination lock, 4 digits. But the oldest one, Kenny, he's sloppy. Writes it on his hand every morning, washes it off before he goes home. How do you know that? Because I pay attention. Loss pushed through the school's side entrance. The hallways were empty. Winter break started in 2 days, but the building stayed open for after-school programs. Basketball practice, chess club, all the normal middle school activities that happened while underneath. Kids like Loss and Jay played a different game with different rules. They moved through the corridors like ghosts. Loss led them to the second-floor bathroom, waited outside the door until Kenny Kobayashi walked out, hands still wet. Loss caught the door before it closed, gestured for Jay to wait. 3 minutes later, Loss emerged. Got it. How? He washes his hands but doesn't dry them properly. Water leaves residue. Numbers are smudged on the paper towel. Loss held up a crumpled brown paper towel from the trash. 7, 3, 1, 8. Jay shook his head. You're a different kind of crazy, you know that? Crazy gets you killed. Smart keeps you breathing. They waited until 4:30, when the after-school programs hit peak activity. Maximum noise, maximum distraction. The basement hallway smelled like mold and industrial cleaner. Flickering fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. The locker sat tucked behind a junction of old pipes. Loss worked the combination. 7, 3, 1, 8. The lock popped open. Inside, the Kobayashi inventory: 4 smartphones, 3 tablets, a Nintendo Switch, assorted earbuds and chargers. Street value, easy $600, more than enough to pay Miguel and have seed money left over. Take the phones, Loss said. Leave the tablets, too bulky. Grab that Switch. Jay loaded his pockets. Loss reached for an iPhone when footsteps echoed down the hallway. Someone's coming, Jay hissed. Loss stayed calm, kept loading his pockets, but the footsteps came faster, closer. Loss, we gotta move. Mr. Patterson, the janitor, rounded the corner. 60-something permanent scowl. Union job that made him untouchable and therefore uninterested in student drama. Until it inconvenienced him. The hell are you two doing down here? Loss straightened. Looking for the bathroom. With your hands in that locker? Patterson moved faster than his age suggested. He grabbed for Loss. Loss dodged left, but his foot caught on a pipe. He went down hard, and Patterson's hand closed on his hoodie. Jay, go! Loss yelled. For one frozen second, Jay didn't move. His brother was caught. Every instinct said stay and fight, but Loss's eyes held a command Jay had been trained to follow since he could walk. Get out. Jay ran. He made it to the stairwell before he heard Patterson's radio crackle. Security was being called. Loss was trapped, caught red-handed with stolen property. Jay's mind raced. If Loss got suspended, they couldn't make the meet with Miguel. If they missed the meet, Miguel came looking, and Miguel wouldn't settle for apologies. The smart play was to wait, let Loss take the hit, hope the school went easy on him. But Jay wasn't Loss. Jay didn't calculate odds or think 3 moves ahead. Jay was fire and fists and loyalty that burned hotter than strategy. He pushed through the school's front entrance into the falling snow. 4:45. The sky was already darkening, streetlights flickering on. Miguel and the Mangananzo scrubs would be at their usual spot, the Chinese restaurant 3 blocks north in the strip mall where they held court after school. Jay walked. Each step felt like loading a gun. He found them in the bathroom of the restaurant. Miguel and his 2 scrubs, passing around a cigarette that definitely wasn't tobacco. The bathroom was small, white tile stained yellow with age, 1 working stall, sink that dripped steadily. Jay walked in like he owned the place. Miguel looked up from the sink, eyes already red. The hell? Little man, you lost? Need to talk, Jay said. His voice didn't shake. He made sure of that. Your brother sends you to beg for more time. One of the scrubs laughed. Raul something. Built like a refrigerator, acne scars across his cheeks. Los is out of play, Jay said. Got caught up, but the deal still stands. Miguel's smile disappeared. Deal was with both of you. Your brother's the one with the brains. You're just the muscle. Then let the muscle renegotiate. The second scrub, Jorge, stepped forward. You got some balls walking in here alone. Balls and a proposition, Jay said. We can't get you 300 by tomorrow, but we can get you 400 by Friday. Miguel flicked ash into the sink. Friday's 2 days late. Late payment comes with interest. And consequences. So name them. You serious right now? Raul moved to Jay's left, boxing him in. You're what, 11? 12? And you're standing here trying to negotiate like you're somebody? Jay's hand went to his pocket. The roll of quarters sat heavy in his palm. That's when Miguel saw it. The movement. The tell. He came strapped, Miguel said quietly. Jorge, check him. Jorge reached for Jay. Jay moved. The roll of quarters caught Jorge under the jaw. The sound was like a bat hitting a watermelon. Jorge went down, blood pouring from his mouth. Raul lunged. Jay was smaller, faster. He ducked under Raul's haymaker and drove his shoulder into the bigger kid's stomach, slamming him back against the stall door. The metal crumpled. Miguel just watched. Didn't move. Didn't help his boys. Just watched like he was studying game film. Raul recovered and got his hands on Jay, lifted him off his feet. Jay drove his elbow back into Raul's nose. Once, twice, 3 times until he felt cartilage crack. They crashed to the floor. Jay's head bounced off the tile. His vision sparked with stars. But he kept moving because stopping meant losing and losing meant dying. Jorge was back up, nose bleeding, swinging wild. Jay rolled. Jorge's fist hit tile, and Jay heard bones break. Jorge screamed. Raul grabbed Jay's hair, slammed his face toward the toilet. The water was rust-stained, chemical blue from the cleaning tablet. Jay got his hands on the rim, fought back, but Raul outweighed him by 60 pounds. You're done, Raul growled, pushing Jay's face toward the water. Jay's forehead touched the surface, cold, chemical. He thought about loss, trapped in that basement with Patterson, waiting to see if his little brother could pull off a miracle. Jay twisted, ignoring the pain in his scalp where Raul gripped his hair. He got his legs under him, planted his feet on the toilet bowl, and drove backward with everything he had. Raul's back hit the sink. The mirror cracked. Jay spun in his grip and brought the roll of quarters up into Raul's throat. Raul's eyes went wide. He let go, hands going to his crushed windpipe, gasping. Jay didn't stop, couldn't stop. He grabbed Raul's head and drove it down toward the toilet, pushing the bigger kid to his knees, forcing his face toward the water the same way Raul had done to him. How's it feel? Jay's voice came out savage. Blood ran from his nose, his lips split, eye already swelling. But his hand stayed steady. Raul's face went under. Bubbles rose as he tried to breathe, got toilet water instead. His hands scrabbled at Jay's arms, leaving scratches, but Jay held on. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Enough! Miguel's voice cut through the violence like a blade. Jay looked up. Miguel stood there, smoke still curling from his cigarette. Jorge huddled by the door, cradling his broken hand. Raul thrashed weakly in Jay's grip. "Let him up," Miguel said. Not a threat, an observation. Jay released Raul. The bigger kid came up gasping, vomiting toilet water onto the tile. He crawled away, wheezing. Jay stood. Blood and water dripped from his face. His orange jacket was torn at the shoulder. His gold earrings caught the fluorescent light. "You got something to say?" Miguel said. "Say it now, while you're still standing." Jay spit blood into the sink. $400 by Friday. Los and I, we get our own corner. Nobody touches us. Nobody collects from us. We're independent operators, but we pay respect to Mangananzo territory. Monthly fee, $75. Every month, no arguments. Miguel took a drag. And why would I agree to that? Because I just put down your 2 best scrubs without breaking a sweat. Jay gestured at Jorge and Raul. "You could send more after us, sure. But how many you willing to lose before it's not worth it anymore? We're kids. We're small. We're not a threat to your real operations, but we're good at what we do, and we're willing to pay for the privilege of being left alone." The silence stretched. Water dripped from the broken sink. Jorge's breathing came wet and painful. Raul vomited again. Miguel studied Jay the way a jeweler studies a diamond, looking for flaws, looking for value. Then he smiled. Same shark smile from the basketball courts. "You got balls, toilet washer. I'll give you that. We got a deal. 400 by Friday. 75 monthly after that. You're late even once. The protection's gone and you're fair game." Miguel stuck out his hand. "But you stay in your lane. No dealing to high schoolers. No moving weight. Small time only. The second you try to level up without permission, this deal is void, and what happened to my boys here happens to you. Times 10. We clear?" Jay took his hand, shook it. Miguel's grip was iron, testing him. Jay squeezed back just as hard. "Clear. Then get the hell out of my bathroom before I change my mind." Jay walked out into the snow. The cold hit his injuries like acid. His left eye was swollen almost shut. His lip wouldn't stop bleeding. His ribs screamed where Raul had landed a body shot he barely remembered taking. He walked the 3 blocks back to school through the falling snow, leaving a trail of blood drops like breadcrumbs. Each step hurt. Each breath felt like swallowing glass. But he'd done it. Walked into enemy territory with nothing but his fists and his mouth, and walked out with a deal that Los's chess game never could have achieved. Los was waiting by the front entrance. Somehow he'd talked his way out of the Patterson situation. Somehow he'd slipped away before security arrived. Because that's what Los did. He always had an exit strategy. But when he saw Jay, his expression changed. For the first time in years, Los looked surprised. "What the hell happened to you?" "Renegotiated," Jay said. Blood dripped from his chin onto the snow. 400 by Friday, 75 monthly after that. Our own corner, protected. Los stared. "You went to see Miguel?" "Yeah." "Alone?" "Yeah." And he agreed to new terms. After I put his scrubs in the toilet, Jay grinned even though it split his lip wider. Literally. Los was quiet for a long moment. Snowflakes collected on his Dodgers hat, his yellow camo hoodie. The gold chain around his neck looked dull in the streetlight. "We need 400 now instead of 3, Los said finally. "That's harder. But we've got until Friday. That's better. And we're paying monthly. That's overhead. But we're protected. That's insurance." Jay met his brother's eyes. "You taught me to think ahead. Well, I'm thinking. Monthly fee means we legitimize. We're not freelancers hoping to fly under the radar. We're recognized. official. And once we're official, we can grow, build, because we're not looking over our shoulder anymore. Los studied his little brother like he was seeing him for the first time. The blood, the swelling, the torn jacket, the iron in his eyes that wasn't there this morning. "Show me," Los said. They walked to the Chinese restaurant. Miguel was still there, his scrubs cleaned up but limping. When Los and Jay entered the bathroom, Miguel looked at Los like he was trying to solve an equation. "Your brother's crazy," Miguel said. "You know that, right?" "I'm learning," Los said. "Deal stands. 400 Friday, 75 monthly. He tries to renegotiate again with his fists. Deal's void and you both disappear. We good?" Los looked at Jay, really looked at him, then back at Miguel. "We're good." They walked home through the snow. The streets were empty, most people hiding from the cold that didn't belong in East LA. Christmas lights blinked in windows. Someone's radio played Feliz Navidad. "You should have waited," Los said. "We could have figured out another play." "Didn't have time for another play." "You could have gotten killed." "But I didn't." Los stopped walking. Jay stopped too. They stood in the middle of the sidewalk, snow falling around them like ash. "You went into that bathroom thinking you might not come out," Los said. "It wasn't a question." "Yeah. For me. For us." Jay wiped blood from his nose. "You're the brain, I'm the muscle. That's how this works. You got caught, so I did what muscle does. I applied pressure until something gave." Los was quiet. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, more human. "We need to hit the pawn shop on Cesar Chavez, Old Man Rivera. He moves stolen electronics, no questions. We can get maybe $250 for the stuff we took from Kobayashi. Need another $150 by Friday." "The Christmas fundraiser," Jay said. "School's running that toy drive raffle. $5 tickets. Winner gets a new bike. We could run a side pool, take bets on the raffle number. If we work it right, hedge our bets, we clear 200 easy." Los stared at his brother. "That's actually smart. Sometimes the muscle surprises you." They walked the rest of the way in silence. Not the awkward kind, the comfortable kind. The kind that comes when you've shed blood together and come out the other side still breathing. When they reached their building, Los stopped on the steps. "You're gonna have to teach me." "Teach you what?" "How to do what you did today, walk into that bathroom." Los met Jay's eyes. "I can calculate odds all day. I can plan 10 moves ahead. But what you did, that takes something I don't have. Yet." Jay smiled. His split lip started bleeding again. "And you're gonna teach me to think before I throw punches." "Deal." They shook on it. Brothers, partners. Two halves of something bigger than either of them alone. 3 days later they made the payment. $400 in 20s and 10s, handed over in the snow-covered basketball courts at exactly 4 p.m. Miguel counted it twice, then nodded. "You're official," he said. "Don't make me regret this." "Won't have to," Los said. Miguel looked at Jay. "Toilet washer, that's your name now. You know that, right?" Jay shrugged. "I've been called worse." Miguel laughed. Actually laughed. "Yeah, I bet you have." The Mangananzo scrubs left. Los and Jay stood in the falling snow, in their corner of the school, in their piece of the empire. They were building one calculated move and one bloody negotiation at a time. "We're going to need to expand operations," Los said. "Monthly overhead means we need consistent revenue streams." "Already on it," Jay said. "Been talking to some 6th graders. They want in on the dice games. We could run a tournament. $10 buy-in. Winner takes 60%, we take 40% for hosting." Los smiled, cold, calculating. "You're learning. Had a good teacher." The snow kept falling. Winter in East LA, rare and temporary. But what Los and Jay were building, that was permanent. That was foundation. That was the beginning of something that would Either make them legends or get them killed. Probably both, because that's how it works in this life. You pay in blood for every inch of ground you take. You sacrifice pieces of yourself for scraps of power. And somewhere along the way, if you're lucky or cursed or both, you stop being kids playing dress-up and become the thing you were pretending to be. Loss was 13. Jay was 12. And they'd just claimed their first territory in a war that had been going on since before they were born and would keep going long after they were gone. But on that December evening, standing in the snow with blood still dried on Jay's face and calculations already spinning in Loss's mind, they weren't thinking about the future. They were thinking about tomorrow, about next week, about the next obstacle and the next opportunity. One move at a time, one deal at a time, one fight at a time. Because that's how you survive when you're building an empire out of lunch money and intimidation. You don't think about the ending. You focus on the next step, and the step after that, and you trust that your brother, whether he's the brain or the muscle, has your back when the world tries to knock you down. The snow fell on East LA like a warning, like a promise, like the first page of a story written in blood and ambition, and the kind of loyalty that doesn't exist in the normal world. This is where it started. Two brothers, one corner, one deal. Everything else that came after, that's a different story. But you need to know how it began, because the beginning is where you learn who someone really is. Before the power corrupts them or the violence breaks them or the game spits them out like everyone else who thought they were special. Loss and Jay walked home through the snow, and somewhere in that walk, they stopped being brothers who happened to work together and became partners who happened to be brothers. The difference is subtle, but it's everything. Remember that. When you're building something from nothing, when you're fighting for your corner of the world, when you're deciding whether to play it safe or risk it all on a roll of quarters and the belief that sometimes the muscle knows better than the brain. Remember the snow. Remember the blood. Remember the bathroom. Remember the day Jay earned his name and Loss learned to follow. Because power isn't just about control. It's about knowing when to lead and when to let your brother walk into hell with nothing but his fists and faith that he'll walk back out with a crown. That's the game. That's the truth. And this is just the beginning.